This video is bound to trigger some of y'all. Hi Forum, my name's Manny, aka CascadeScents, and if you are at all remotely interested in perfume, colognes, fragrance in general, well this might be the channel for you. I wouldn't call myself a fragrance expert or just a fragrance enthusiast, but I do love talking about this, and again, if you love discussing this, you're probably at the right place. Today's topic is on fragrances I would never buy again, but as always, before we get started, 500 likes and a random one of you subscribers in the comment section below will have your comment pinned to the top, as you will be the lucky recipient of an assorted niche fragrance sample pack. So in order to be eligible, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. But yeah, here we go with fragrances I would never buy again. I'm not saying that these fragrances are bad or that these are reasons that you also should not have to buy these fragrances for. I'm just saying that I'm not going to pick these up for X, Y, and Z reasons. Reasons that matter to me, that's all. So I guess the predominant reason to why I'm doing this video is because I must have spoke wonders about some of these fragrances potentially in the past, and you may be wondering why I'm not talking about them now. So again, these reasons are personal to me. I'm not calling for a boycott of any of these brands. So yeah, with that being said, hopefully this doesn't trigger anyone here, and we might as well get to it, starting with the first fragrance I would never buy again, and that's Fierce Cologne by Abercrombie and Fitch. Now, anyone who's walked into an Abercrombie and Fitch brick and mortar location knows of Fierce Cologne, of course. You're gonna smell that shit everywhere there in them dark hallways of youthful clothes. You're just gonna get that stench. I mean, it's a nice scent. It's kind of piercing to me at this point because of how I associate it with such an era of my past, but objectively speaking, it is rather pleasant for the kids. Slightly woody and green, but mainly ozonic and musky, and it just kind of feels like you're walking into that scent cloud if you are to get a whiff of it. At least that's what the OG was like, where you would just kind of walk somewhere, and if someone was wearing that scent, or you're just walking by that part of the mall, you can smell that scent emitting from the store. Like you're dead ass not even in that store yet, or you're not having any intention of walking into that store, but you're just gonna smell it. That's what prime Fierce Cologne was like. So at this point, you might be wondering, why am I not going to buy this fragrance ever again? And honestly, I think it's self-explanatory. I just feel like I grew out of that phase. Like I cannot help but think of an aesthetic that I have to associate myself with looking like if I were to wear that scent. Like I feel like I would need to have Abercrombie branded sweats with that and a polo with a shitty logo on it, maybe some meaningless pleather bracelets, I don't know, etc, etc. So I guess I can respect how uniform everything is for Fierce Cologne and Abercrombie and Fitch, but I guess I just don't want to be associated with that cohesiveness, hence why I would never buy it again. But hey, if you still fuck with arguably the king of mall scents, I can't fault you. It smells great, objectively speaking. I'm just not trying to have that in my life right now. That's it. Now moving on to the second fragrance I would never buy again. This one's called Bois d'Argent by Christian Dior. Now this is a fragrance I've spoken wonders about, and even as recent as 2017 fall, this was my #1 fall scent. I love how it predates Dior Homme Lipsticky Iris, with its reliance on more coniferous notes as well as myrrh, which is just an old worldly awesome scent. It really does just smell like money wood or wood money or whatever this shit translates to. However, despite how good it is, there are two dominant scents to why I don't wear this one anymore. One, it's called Iris Fauve by Atelier des Ors, and that pretty much becomes my favorite fall scent in the last 2.5 years-ish, just because I think it does the myrrh and the iris on a much more opulent level. But on top of that, when it comes to just Dior in general, there's another fragrance specifically from Dior that I kind of revert to now when it comes to the cold weather. And if anyone's watched any of my winter designer lists ever, you would know of this scent, and that's Dior en Parfum. Not saying Dior en Parfum has anything to do with Bois d'Argent as far as how it specifically smells, but when it comes to a higher end designer level iris for the cold weather, I'm not looking really for anything else now. Like I'm just completely sold on that scent, its performance, and somehow its compliment factor because people do notice me with it and they actually like it. It's just a lipstick leather bomb that I just simply love and was putting more of a smile on my face rather than Bois d'Argent itself. So I'd be lying to you if I told you that that wasn't part of why I no longer own Bois d'Argent. Again, I'm not saying that Bois d'Argent is a bad fragrance or anything. It's a wonderful fragrance, it's just not for me anymore. Now moving on to the next fragrance I would never buy again, and that's Original Santal by Creed. And in retrospect, this one's pretty easy because Creed is just pissing me off with how egregious they are to call something original when it's not that. Original Vetiver ain't exactly original, and Original Santal, of course, is not exactly original with its roots in Mont Blanc Individuel, for example, Yacht Bomb as well, things like that, you know the deal. And amongst the mainline Millesime fragrances from Creed, this one's just one that I just don't find luxurious at all. And I think if you are spending that kind of money, you kind of want that opulent feeling. Like, to me, this is just traditional aromatics and a cheap sandalwood aroma chemical. So yeah, it just doesn't move me remotely whatsoever. Like, don't get me wrong, I like my sandalwood fragrances, but none that smell this cheap and are this evocative of something else. So yeah, I really can't do this one. In retrospect, I do remember that I actually picked this one up for a bargain, so it was secondhand, which I ended up gifting away to someone. And I'm not saying that that person who wanted that fragrance has cheap taste or anything. It's just a no for me, dog. That's all. Moving on to the next fragrance I would never buy again. This one's called The One for Men Eau de Parfum by Dolce&Gabbana. Or I guess you can also say the initial The One for Men too. And the reason I don't want to wear this kind of DNA ever again is because of how reminded I am of pretty much just anyone in my city who has this scent, which I feel like is 50% of the population of Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. Like, I'm dead ass, all the homies have had this since the late 2000s up until now. And I sure as hell did not get into fragrances to express myself in a way that is similar to pretty much just everyone around me. Like, it's a nice scent, it's a unique scent for the designer level, no doubts there. You know, with its spicy, accessible take on notes like tobacco and amber, which somehow come off as signature scent quality with this, but it's just too many people I know have it. But wait, trigger alert, this brand actually gave me a reason to actually not want to fuck with them. Stefano Gabbana of Dolce&Gabbana actually went on Instagram and called China, who of course hasn't been in the news for really positive reasons recently, a country of shit and an ignorant, dirty smelling mafia. So of course in the fashion world, and maybe the world in general, this kind of made headlines for a while on Twitter and Instagram. They ended up having their Shanghai fashion show canceled that year too, and now I can definitely not envision anyone of Chinese descent wearing any of their stuff, including their scents. But I'm not about xenophobia or xenophobia, so yeah, what can you do? And now moving on to the last scent that I would never buy again. This one is called Santal 33 by Labo. Like, when it comes to entry-level niche brands, I think Labo is one of those that you kind of just have to dive into. Fairly accessible scents, fairly contemporary, and they perform like crazy. And speaking of perform like crazy, this is arguably their biggest performing scent. Like, Santal 33 is a monster. You're gonna leave a scent trail for like kilometers if you're walking somewhere. And people really do, because this scent is really popular in places like New York City, for example, where it's billed as kind of like the unofficial scent in New York. And honestly, I'm catching a lot of wafts of it lately in certain neighborhoods in Toronto even. And I wish I could say that I'm no longer wearing this stuff because it's too popular, because I could just end the video right here, it'd be really easy. But honestly, no, that's not really it for me. So the reason I would never buy Santal 33 ever again is that it just performs too big. And I know I'm probably in the minority when I say this, but for a note that kind of evokes coziness in my head, I kind of want to reserve that type of coziness for people who are most important to me, or even just myself. So I wouldn't mind that being more of a skin scent, or maybe not a skin scent, but not something that's gonna project super monstrously either. Like arm's length, or even more of an arm's length, is fine for me, but that stuff is just way too powerful off of my skin. And don't get me wrong, I don't have a vendetta against fragrances that perform way too hard. Like, I'm okay with leathers that do that, I'm okay with iris that does that, I'm okay with ouds that do that. I just don't want my white notes here, I want them here, you know what I'm saying. So that's part of why I wouldn't wear Santal 33 again, / buy it again. But I do have a secondary reason to why I would never buy it again, and that is also because of Labo. Like, as much as I love this brand, I feel like they're super redundant. They do have fragrances in their library that I would use for the same reasons as I would Santal 33, get some of the same effect, but not just choke everyone out like I would normally do with Santal 33 itself. Something like the city exclusive to Tokyo, Gaiac 10 for example. Soft Gaiac wood, super pretty, comes off of my skin, kind of musky, and maybe at an arm's length, which again is all I would want it for. And when it comes to something that projects not monstrously, but fairly sizably, another 13. I also love that one right there too. Like, it has that papery, musky, ISO-E super effect off my skin, which everyone seems to love. To me, it smells a little bit more chic. It's not as vegetal either. I just overall think it's a better scent. But hey, that might just be me. Again, still wonderful scent. It's part of a nice gateway into niche. And I can't fault anyone for genuinely liking it to this day. I still think it's really good. Again, it's just not for me. It's called Santal 33 by Labo. But hey, forum, that about does it for my 5 fragrances that I would never buy again. Again, disclaimer alert, I'm not saying you should buy or not buy these fragrances for X, Y, and Z reasons that I stated. These are just reasons that are personal to me. So at this point in the video, I would like to know which fragrances you would not buy for reasons that are more personal to you rather than anyone else. It could be feedback related, or it could be for reasons that are kind of similar to mine. I just want to know from you guys. And as always, 500 likes and the luckiest subscriber in the comments will be the lucky recipient of an assorted niche fragrance sample pack. So again, please tell me that, comment, like, and subscribe to be eligible. But until then, hey, this was super fun. Thank you for pulling up once again. I really appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you later. Take care, peace out, bye. Wear your fragrances.